A public apology 20 years in the making.
I hope that they can forgive me.
Why the woman who accused Duke lacrosse players of rape is now coming clean. Her message to the men involved. And the road to Chapel Hill Bill. How did we get here? His story and connections to UNC.
We're thawing out from some icy cold temperatures. A warm up you'll notice, along with our next chance for rain.
The woman who falsely accused 3 Duke lacrosse players of raping her nearly 20 years ago finally admits publicly she lied. Thanks for joining us here. I'm Ashley Rowe. This story dates back to 2006. It took many twists and turns getting national attention. Nearly 20 years later, Mangum made her confession on a podcast. WRAL's Sarah Kruger explains why now.
It's hard to overstate the impact this case had on Duke, on Durham, on those involved. Now the woman at the center of it all, Crystal Mangum, is seeking forgiveness. A video podcast interview with Let's Talk with Kat is where Mangum made the stunning admission nearly 20 years in the making.
I testified falsely against them by saying that they raped me when they didn't. And that was wrong.
It was 2006 when Mangum falsely accused 3 Duke lacrosse players. Many in the community were quick to take her side. Charges against the 3 men were ultimately dropped by now Governor, then State Attorney General Roy Cooper, who is now reacting to the latest revelation.
It was important for me to take that case from the local prosecutor, do an investigation to find the real truth. It is why I dismissed the charges and took the extra step to declare those players innocent of those alleged crimes.
Mangum is currently in prison for murdering her boyfriend. The interview came about because podcast host Caterina DePasquale wrote to her asking her to be a guest on the show. This is the letter Mangum sent back, provided to us by DePasquale. In it, she lets DePasquale know it's been on my heart to do a public apology.
I hope that they can forgive me, and I want them to know that I love them.
In the interview, she characterized her time in prison as one of growth, with a lot of time spent reading the Bible.
I betrayed the trust of a lot of other people who believed in me. And made up a story that wasn't true because I wanted validation from people and not from God. And that was wrong.
Mangum's release from prison is scheduled for about a year from now in early 2026. Sarah Kruger, WRAL News in Durham.
What happened to the other names connected to the case? The district attorney at the time was Mike Nifong. He pursued charges against the players and was later found guilty of lying about DNA evidence that would have cleared them. He was disbarred. Nifong wrote a book in 2014 saying he still believed Mangum's story. And the off-campus house where the infamous party happened, not there anymore. The university owned the home and decided to tear it down in 2010 after it fell into disrepair.
Quick traffic alert here from the WRAL Live Center. I'm Brian Schrader. Up in Wake Forest, we had a crash on southbound Capitol Boulevard right around Burlington Mills Road. They have cleared that in the past 30 minutes, but we are still seeing some pretty heavy delays there. So if you're heading out for the next little while between Falls of Neuse and Burlington Mills on southbound Capitol, still going to see some backups. Good news, no serious injuries with that crash.
Yeah, good update there. Thank you, Brian. Cool but dry weather is ahead for the parades happening across our area this weekend. Kat, it beats the wet weather we had for much of the week, right?
Absolutely. There's going to be a nice festive chill in the air. It's dry. For the morning parades, you'll get to see more sunshine. Durham's parade, 10 a.m., 42 degrees. Mostly sunny there, and in Fayetteville for their 10 a.m. parade should be around 49 degrees. Holly Springs, 10 a.m. as well, 43. The outlier here is the Cary Christmas parade. That's going to be happening during the afternoon at 2 o'clock. Last year, it was so warm. It was in the mid to upper 60s. This year, a bit more of a seasonal feel. Good day to have your favorite Christmas sweater on, 53 degrees, and maybe cool enough for some hot chocolate. We will start out with some clouds rolling in during the afternoon tomorrow, but we stay dry throughout the day. 54 for our high. Sunday is when we're going to stay mostly cloudy throughout the day, and there is a small chance for some rain Sunday. We'll be watching for perhaps some showers to move in midday. These would be pretty light, pretty spotty, but just a heads up, tomorrow looks like the better day for outdoor plans. Coming up, we'll have a closer look at our next decent chance for rain.
All right, Kat. A cowboy-style gunfight. A judge walks into a supermarket, and a school bus schedule parents will not be happy to hear about. Let's get you caught up on today's big headlines. Here are 5 things you should know right now. A federal grand jury formally charged the man connected to shooting outside Crabtree Valley Mall. 22-year-old Jamarian Burton is charged with possession of a firearm and ammunition as a convicted felon. This all happened in October. Raleigh police say a fight between rival gangs ended with shots fired. They were calling it a cowboy-style gunfight. 2 other people face charges. Burton faces 15 years in prison. Multiple times this month, investigators have found human remains along a road in Wayne County. The sheriff's office says they found both sets of remains after 2 separate calls. They haven't said if the remains are from more than one person or if a crime was committed. The state medical examiner will take a closer look. The Raleigh grocery store owner accused of killing a customer took the stand today. Jazir Zarka spent 15 minutes talking about how he came to the U.S., but the most interesting part happened before he took the stand. The judge, the prosecution, and the defense all took a trip to Taz's supermarket. They took a look around before heading back to the courtroom. The trial is set to pick up on Monday. The North Carolina Supreme Court upheld the latest death sentence to come out of Wake County. Siga Gillard was sentenced to death in 2019. A jury found him guilty of killing a pregnant woman and her boyfriend at a Raleigh hotel back in 2016. Today, the Supreme Court ruled his trial and sentencing were free of errors. Gillard is one of 136 people on death row in North Carolina. Durham school parents, you are still going to be on the hook for getting the kids to school in the next year, in 2025. The school bus does 4 days. You handle the 5th. The district has been doing this for weeks now. It was supposed to end this month. Durham Public Schools, though, says the 4 days a week bus schedule will now last until at least January 17th. The district says it still needs 100 bus drivers long term. Brian.
All new in the WRAL Live Center, we have learned that Clayton police right now are investigating a bank robbery. Take a look at this video. We just got into the WRAL Live Center. This happened at the Wells Fargo at 70 and Shotwell Road around 5:30 this evening. You can see that Clayton police there on the scene investigating that. We are working to get more details about this. We can't tell you at this point we haven't heard of any injuries.
All right, thank you. We've got several newcomers on the North Carolina Council of State, including the Labor Commissioner. If that position sounds a little dull, consider the elevator. Remember Sherry Berry? No doubt you saw her face on an elevator. For 20 years, she was North Carolina's Labor Commissioner and the elevator queen. When Josh Dobson took over in 2021, he got rid of the elevator pictures. The guy elected this year literally ran on this issue. Luke Farley says he's putting pictures back in the elevator, but he's responsible for much more than that. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie asked him about his approach to the job.
Incoming Commissioner Luke Farley is a new face in North Carolina politics. He's never held elected office before. He says he plans to follow in the footsteps of his Republican predecessors here at the Department of Labor. North Carolina may be ranked low by many pro-labor groups, but the state's workplace injury rate is below the national average. Farley credits that to former Republican labor commissioners Sherry Berry and Josh Dobson. They've been criticized by some for lax enforcement, but he says they took a balanced approach that he plans to continue.
Smart regulation encourages job creation. Burdensome regulation drives jobs out of this state. And so protecting workers to me is not just about the regulations, it's about their prosperity as well.
One of the biggest dangers facing farm and warehouse workers here is heat. North Carolina doesn't have any state laws about heat protection, and Farley plans to leave that to the federal government.
There is a proposed heat stress standard, and this department is going to wait and see what happens with that, and then we'll take a look at what the federal government puts out, and we'll respond accordingly.
On the campaign trail, Farley spoke out against federal workplace regulations imposed during the COVID pandemic.
Well, COVID is not an occupational safety or health issue. It's a disease, and so that's the common sense approach to it, to treat it as what it in fact is and not a workplace hazard.
Right, but we do know that a lot of people did contract it in workplace.
And it does come into the workplace, but it is not inherently a workplace hazard.
Farley's coming into a department that's understaffed. He plans to ask state lawmakers for a 10% salary increase to get those vacancies filled.
People understand that this is a life or death matter, right? The work that is being carried out by the safety inspectors of the North Carolina Department of Labor are life or death issues. And we think that by conveying that, we will be able to get the raises that we need to attract people to these jobs.
Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
You can learn more about the incoming commissioner in our online story at WRAL.com. All right, how did an NFL legend become the next head coach at UNC? We've been talking about it all week. Bill Belichick has more connections to Chapel Hill, though, than you might think. After the break, let's look into all the little details and answer the question, how did we get here? Plus, 120 meteors per hour shooting through space, and it's a pretty good weekend to see it. Kat's got your stargazing forecast just ahead. All week we have been putting the Chapel Bill nickname out there. Well, now a former Tar Heel student wants to cash in on it. Anthony Proscia filed a trademark for the term Chapel Bill. Proscia told TMZ he intends to use it for merchandise, but he'd let the school or Belichick himself use it or license apparel under it. Belichick's first hire for his staff at UNC was his GM, Michael Lombardi. He was the first to speak with the university on Belichick's behalf during the hiring process. That's what sources told to WRAL Sports' Pat Welter. Lombardi was hired to be the general manager of Tar Heels football program. And according to him, he's been thinking about something like this since 1992.
Bill and I came here in 1992. We stayed at the Carolina Inn. We would watch tape all day. We'd go jog. And we thought, man, how can't you win here? What a magical place.
Lombardi will be joining Belichick with the goal of building a pro-style personnel department to evaluate talent in high school and the transfer portal. You may not know it, but Belichick's connections to UNC go way further back than the 1990s. Let's talk about that. The history, the connections, and all the little details. How does an NFL legend end up with a coaching job he's never tried before? How did we get here? Dan's not here tonight, but he wanted to make sure you cruised into the weekend with this.
Belichick first became Chapel Hill Bill in the mid-1950s. Here he is on the bleachers at Kenan Stadium. His father, Steve Belichick, was an assistant coach for the Tar Heels, working for UNC legend George Barclay. Another assistant on the staff was Bill Edwards, a future college football Hall of Famer, and Little Bill's godfather. How sweet. In the late 50s, his dad, Steve, started coaching for Navy, where he literally wrote the book on scouting. The LA Times has called it the Bible of scouting techniques. And there was no greater student than Bill. In the 1970s, Bill worked in several assistant coaching roles in the NFL. He coached the New York Giants defense in the 80s when Lawrence Taylor dominated the league. By the way, LT is a Tar Heel. Belichick's first head coaching gig was with the Browns in 1991, and in the year 2000, he took over for the Patriots.
We do it for you! We do it for us!
A few Tar Heels have played for him: Sam Aiken, Brandon Tate, and Algie Crumpler. While Belichick dominated in the pros, the Tar Heels were below average. They haven't won an ACC title since 1980. Since 2000, the Heels have had 6 coaches: Torbush, Bunting, Davis, Withers, Fedora, and Brown. Their combined record, 141 wins, 153 losses. Things are changing.
For the last 13 months, collegiate athletes have been able to make money from their name, image, and likeness.
They're the rules that allow college athletes to be paid for marketing and promotional activities.
And they can now transfer to another team pretty much whenever they want. Recruiting will never be the same. Earlier this year, UNC announced an NIL collective to capitalize and survive. The The change in landscape leading to a change in leadership.
UNC Chapel Hill and football coach Mack Brown are parting ways.
The open position leading to an open conversation.
UNC Chapel Hill has in fact offered Bill Belichick the job to be the program's next head coach.
The college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL.
UNC and Bill Belichick are finalizing a deal.
5 years, $50 million.
A new era in college football. A new head coach in Chapel Hill. A new opportunity to put the Tar Heels on the national stage. But Bill never forgot his roots.
One story I always heard was Billy's first words were, beat Duke.
And that's how we got here.
It's interesting, isn't it? Hey, don't forget to look up into the night sky tonight. You might see a shooting star, or at least it might look like one. The Geminid meteor shower peaks tonight, 120 meteors per hour. The meteors will shoot through space through Christmas Eve, and this weekend might be the best time of that range to see them, just to really try to get away from the street lights. And unfortunately, we've got, the moon might interrupt that, the clouds as well. So we'll see. We'll see if we can get a glimpse.
It's not as good as it would be on a normal year. This is typically one of the best meteor showers. Not top tier, but it's not bad. You'll probably be able to see one or two if you're up early tomorrow morning. I'm not going to stay up for it late tonight, though, to look outside at 4 a.m. or anything like that. So not quite worth that. The weekend is pretty mild for us. It's exactly where we should be this time of year. 55 is our normal high. We're going to be in the mid-50s both days this weekend, jumping up into the 60s and even 70 degrees as we look ahead to Tuesday of next week. So it's a brief winter warm-up on the way, but a lot of, temperature roller coastering. We're going to go back and forth between the warmer and the cooler air. For now, things are pretty quiet. We've got clouds pushing through. We clear out in the morning and then cloud back up tomorrow afternoon and into Sunday, but we're going to start the weekend slightly below normal in temperatures. By the time we get to next week with that warm up, I just wanted to point out it's not just for us here at home. We're talking about a good part of the country seeing above normal temperatures. So really thawing out next week after many areas have cooled down. But toward the end of next week, we start to see this air mass approach, and that's likely to cool us back down toward the end of next week. Futurecast for Monday. I want to show you we've got an approaching cold front on the way on Monday. It kind of falls apart, though, as it gets closer to us Tuesday. Notice the rain breaks up, not a lot of moisture to work with, so just a 20% chance of rain Tuesday. But that chance starts to go up Wednesday into Thursday. We've got a stronger flow from the Gulf, drawing in more moisture, a bigger dip in the jet stream, and that's going to lead to a better chance for this storm system to come together. And that looks like our best chance for rain next week would be Wednesday night into Thursday. Keep in mind the timeline of this could shift a little bit, but we'll continue to watch this for you throughout the weekend and into early next week. We're still in a drought. We could use any rain we could get. As for the chance for any of this to fall as snow, we do cool down next weekend. So if we could get something to come through next weekend, it could be more interesting. One model showed that, but when you take a model, one of our best, the European model, and run it 50 times, it's only about a 1% chance of an inch or more of snow. The mountains, though, do have a better chance of that, especially as you head to the north and west. So we'll keep an eye on that for the mountains for you. In Franklinton, a live look from Mason and Maine. A beautiful night. They've got their Christmas tree all lit up, the train around the tree and the walkway here. It's nice to see tonight. Pretty nice night for it. Temperatures are in the upper 40s for most of us right now. Maybe heading out to do some holiday activities tomorrow. Ice skating would be nice. Not too hot, not too cold. 36 at 8 a.m. By noon, we're going to be in the upper 40s and then low to mid 50s throughout the afternoon. Sunday, a small chance for rain. This would be midday into the afternoon. Don't be surprised. You see a quick shower passing by, 55 for the high, and then temperatures rebound before dipping down again at the end of next week. I did want to point out our low temperatures, 52 degrees Monday night into Tuesday morning. That is closer to our normal high this time of year. That just goes to show how warm the air mass is going to be that's headed our way next week.
All right, Kat. Thank you. 'Tis the season for a real-life Christmas tree. For decades, WRAL has put together dozens of stories on North Carolina's Christmas crop. In about 2 minutes, we go into the WRAL archives to find a classic. By now, you might have already put up your Christmas tree, or maybe you're behind and you're grabbing it this weekend. This week, we went into the WRAL archive to find a classic Christmas tree shopping story. And we found a lot. Stories over the last 50 years about the Christmas tree industry, higher prices, recycling, you name it. We couldn't pick just one for you, so we pulled a few. And it turns out they fit together quite nicely. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. Have a great weekend. Here it is, your Friday moment of nostalgia.
Christmas tree.
Christmas tree.
The Christmas tree.
Christmas trees.
Perfect Christmas tree.
Christmas tree farmers. Christmas tree genetics.
The stolen Christmas tree.
The Christmas tree of choice in the White House.
Christmas trees. They bring the beauty of Christmas into our homes, but it's also a major industry in North Carolina.
Up to 6 million Christmas trees are harvested every year in North Carolina.
Over the years, North Carolinians have learned how to grow a fairly decent Christmas tree.
There are 1,600 growers in the state who are right now growing up to 50 million Fraser firs.
The first large-scale crop of the trees won't be available for at least another 15 years.
This year's wet weather has made growing Christmas trees a bit more enjoyable for the farmers.
In spite of all of that, when you and I go down to the lot to buy one this year, we can expect to pay a little bit more.
Now, the price you might pay for a Christmas tree pales in comparison to the fine for illegally chopping one down.
This year, more than ever, Christmas tree lots are depending on last-minute shoppers to make their quotas.
Even if you're not going to buy a living Christmas tree this holiday season, like this big one behind me, you can still have a green Christmas by buying the ornaments that have already been recycled.
And there is no shortage of Christmas trees that would make the perfect trees to adorn living rooms across the triangle. Back to you.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.